The City of Waterloo, in cooperation with its many active and inspiring entities, presents Heart for the City, a chance to hear and see what's going on in our city and to meet people who serve you, teach you, entertain you, help you, all neighbors and like you. Make this a city on the move. And now, here's our host, the Honorable Quentin Hart.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on Heart for the City. I'm Quentin Hart, proud Mayor of Waterloo. There is a lot to cover, so let's get to our first story. If you follow the news, too often you read or hear about the elderly, those with cognitive problems, autistic individuals, and others wandering off and becoming lost. Often this situation ends in tragedy. There is now good news on how this type of tragedy can be avoided. How? The answer in 30 seconds.
Getting healthy has never been easier with a membership at Cedar Valley Sportsplex. Offering 80 free classes a week at all skill levels, there's always new and fun opportunities to grow. You never have to miss out on your favorites with our state-of-the-art facilities, featuring great exercise equipment, a track and field, pool, and 2 regulation gyms. So whether your game is football or pickleball, let the Cedar Valley Sportsplex turn your routine into something amazing.
Over 5 million people in America have Alzheimer's. That number will triple by 2050. Well over 50% of these people wander and become lost. A lost person with Alzheimer's or other dementia represents a critical emergency, as nearly half of them will die, can become injured, or fall victim to predators if they are not located within 24 hours. Besides dementia and Alzheimer's, cognitive disabilities include autism, Down syndrome, and traumatic brain injury, all of which can result in people wandering off. Here to tell us how this emergency can result in a positive outcome is Deputy Sheriff Joe Stafford. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Right. So Deputy, what is Project Lifesaver?
Project Lifesaver is an organization that it started in Florida. Mm-hmm. It has grown, is pretty popular in Wisconsin, and Iowa is starting to get on the ball with it. Okay. It's designed to help find dementia people, autistic people, those that wander and get lost.
And so how does that work when you say find? How does that actually work?
So the way it works is they have to sign up for the program. Mm-hmm. And right now in Blackhawk County, this program is funded by the Sheriff's Office. They will get a transmitter that is like this. It actually comes on a plastic wristband that we rivet to their wrist. We want it to be something that they cannot take off, mm-hmm. or at least that they have to work with it. This transmitter is battery operated. We have a battery tester that every day the caregiver has to check this battery to make sure it's working. Wow. If they happen to become lost with that, the Sheriff's Office currently has 2 of these, mm-hmm. Which are the receivers, and each transmitter has its own frequency, so we can adjust the frequency here. Wow. And if I turn this on, you'll hear it beeping. And as I bring this closer, I'm close enough it probably won't, but that chirp, the louder that chirp, the more intense, tells us that we're getting close mm-hmm. to that individual. We had some specialized training with this. Mm-hmm. We were able to track this little transmitter, not on a person, but just the transmitter itself hidden out in the middle of a field from 3/4 of a mile away.
And so for you to be able to do this, there's specialized training that you have to go through. So you actually have to find it in the middle of a field, or?
Correct. We did 3 different scenarios. We actually had a trainer come down from Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. I believe there were 6 of us from the Sheriff's Office that went through the training with this receiver. Mm-hmm. And they had 3 different locations that they hid this. And each one got it progressively harder. Mm-hmm. So the last one that we did was this transmitter in a field. And, you might have some doubts until you can find a little transmitter like this hidden in a field. Imagine it being on a person. Right. You'd be able to spot that person a lot sooner than you can see this transmitter.
Wow. And so the system has been tested. So have you had situations where you really have used it?
Knock on wood, we have not yet. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but if it does, it's just one more means to hopefully have this come to an end within 24 hours. Hopefully it comes to a better ending than after 24 hours.
Well, that's important because one of the things we have recently worked on with the AAA is trying to become a dementia-friendly community. And so having these types of resources or technology to be able to use is critically important to maintain the safety for our residents. But can you tell us how many people are actually signed up? Do you know offhand?
Currently, we have 13 people signed up for this. I have phone calls every day. Not everyone quite meets the criteria for this. And one of the big criteria is that they are wanderers, not that we want this on somebody for that peace of mind. And I don't mean it the way it sounds. This is by no means to take the place of a caregiver or a parent. It's an aid. It's a tool.
Right. And so within your department, you know, how many are qualified to be able to use this?
We currently have 6 members of the sheriff's office.
Okay. And then you said the wristband is put in place, and that can't easily be removed, right?
Correct. Like I said, it's a plastic wristband, so for them to be able to tear it off would be difficult. Obviously, they could take scissors and cut it off, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. We sell this as the idea of a watch. Obviously, some understand what it is, but for the younger kids, you know, you have a watch like mom or dad, and so they're more apt to wear it.
Right. And so this is a pretty huge thing to do. Are there other partners that are involved with the sheriff's office?
We have the Alzheimer's unit working with us. We do have a citizen volunteer that is probably one of our main drives for this program, really aiding and keeping it going. And so, like everything, one person can't do it all, or one organization for that matter.
Right. So it's critical to have partners. And then there's another program that's similar to the one, it's the LOSS program.
Correct. This whole program, we have 3 different parts to it. Lost Loved Ones Safe Together is, we offer this program, the Project Lifesaver, we offer Vitals, which they would have to come for themselves, and Medical Alert. And basically those are just companies out there, they can have a wristband and have their information on it. For many autistic individuals especially, to be able to express where they live, those types of informations are what's on the back of that. Law enforcement in general is getting a lot of training on how to deal with autistic individuals.
Right, and we know that at some point the statistics are over half of them will become lost, or other situations, negative situations can happen. And so this is one that will hopefully decrease that 50% and help give the necessary attention and support. But what I was wondering too, what about a premise file? What is a premise file?
So the premise file is something that we have these individuals fill out, and it, long story short, gives a little bit of their medical history, but the more important thing that it gives law enforcement is it tells us their likes and dislikes or their fears. Some individuals are afraid of the red lights. Some individuals are afraid of a uniform. And to know, like anything, what you're dealing with prior to getting there is a huge, huge bonus. So we're working on being able to have these premise files loaded into our CGIS program so that it is available to every deputy or every officer on the street. And
knowledge is power when you're dealing in this situation as well, and information is key. And all of this information is confidential, right, between the law enforcement and the individual, right?
Correct.
And really quickly, how is this project funded?
Again, it's 100% through the sheriff's office right now. I am the community services coordinator. So one of the things that we do is have a golf tournament every year. So the funds from that have helped funded this. And hopefully we can keep going with funding this. I think it's a great opportunity for the Cedar Valley to have this. Again, not every community, every county has it. So, and here we hope it grows to neighboring
Well, you have to let me know when the golf tournament is, and we're doing it for our residents and neighbors that need this, so I promise not to have any fun on the golf course while we're doing it as well. Right? So
That would defeat the purpose there, right?
Yeah, so thank you, Deputy Stafford, for taking time to tell us about this important development in aiding recovery and rescue efforts. And on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you and all the responders as well as the volunteers for their dedicated work in helping those with disabilities to survive the tragedy of being lost. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Members of the Project Lifesaver team are specially trained not only in the use of electronic tracking equipment, but also in methods to communicate with the person who has Alzheimer's disease or related disorders. Locating the individuals is only part of the mission. The person who is located will be disoriented, anxious, and untrusting. The Project Lifesaver teams knows how to approach the person, gain their trust, and put them at ease for the trip back home. So our thanks to those who dedicate themselves to this most important and life-saving effort. Moving on, Dan Gable is a wonderful native Olympic gold medalist and former head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes wrestling team. And he is also the founder and namesake of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame and Dan Gable Museum. The museum suffered a great deal of damage in the flood of 2008, and in January 2014, an estimated 7,500 gallons of water covered the floor in about half of the museum. And after all of this, how is the museum doing? Surprisingly well. More on this success out of hardship after this.
Discover your past, present, and future at the Grant Museum District. Explore and play at the Bluedorn Science Imaginarium. This interactive science center provides fun, hands-on exhibits and live science demonstrations. Visitors can explore more than 90 different exhibits and marvel at the aquariums and enclosures that are home to a variety of amphibians, fish, reptiles, snakes, and arachnids. Enjoy both permanent and temporary exhibits at the Grant Museum of History and Science. Take in a planetarium show and learn all about the history of the Cedar Valley. Marvel at the Victorian elegance of the Snowden House and the Rensselaer Russell House Museum. Visit the Sullivan Brothers Iowa Veterans Museum and take in its traditional and interactive displays. Veteran stories are told throughout the museum's mini theaters, interactive maps, dog tag stations, and more. Visit gmdistrict.org for details, hours, and rates.
Welcome back to Heart for the City. If you follow local wrestling like I do, you will be familiar with Wartburg College's emeritus wrestling coach, Jim Miller, who left the school to begin a new chapter as the director of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum. He amassed a career record of 413 wins with only 37 losses, 10 NCAA Division III team championships, 21 consecutive conference championships, and 7 National Wrestling Coaches Association National Dual Championships before stepping down after the 2013 season. He coached 37 individual national champions, 147 All-Americans, 72 NWCA academic All-Americans. Wow. Welcome, Coach Miller.
Thank you, man.
So I think you probably would have been the only one that can help me turn my 0-4 wrestling record around to 4-0, but I'm retired now.
But you came in with a nice stance. As soon as you see me, you came in for 0-4. You had a pretty nice stance.
I was ready to run.
Solid.
If you would have did
solid.
it, if you would have even moved back that way, I'd have took off running. But hey, Coach, you're an emeritus wrestling coach, recently retired from Wartburg. Tell me something of your very accomplished wrestling background that we may
My
not
background, Waterloo, Iowa. Grew up, went to East Waterloo.
East High.
Yeah.
East. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then went to Northern Iowa. Won a couple Division II titles, second and fourth in Division I. Then I went into that 37-year coaching career. And so I've been pretty fortunate.
So tell me, can you beat Dan? He's not.
Well,
he's not here.
if we were going to compete, it'd be like a 100-meter dash or something. I know his hips are still bothering him, right?
Well, he'll never see this, but yeah, we hear it right here. Coach Jim can beat you. But the Gable Museum has received, I think, around $1.4 million to do all the renovations that we have right now. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Well, it's a beautiful place right now, man. The whole museum is renovated. I think the two biggest things were the expansion of the wrestling room, over doubled the space of the wrestling room, which is the Dan Gable Learning Center, and obviously there's a lot of learning going on in there. And then also our theater room, which is, you can go in there and watch. Today I watched a 1948 match with Bill Cole, who's one of the legends in the sport way back in that era. And watched Kyvan Gadsden the other day.
Yes.
So you got a lot of learning in there too.
Yep.
And so I think that we have a lot of history going on. Obviously, we want to preserve history and also inspire people with the museum. So.
Did we mention you graduated from East High?
I did.
Okay. We said that.
Yeah.
We said that. I'm sorry to keep flashing back. But I think, but wrestling individually as an athlete, then coaching, and now director of the museum. How does that change your perspective a little bit?
Okay, yeah, that does change because as a coach, you're like this, man. I mean, you are tunnel vision on your team. You just focus on one thing. And now my vision is way out here because, we're talking about helping youth wrestling. We're talking about high school wrestling, college wrestling, international wrestling. We're talking about boys and girls.
Right.
So my vision is encompassing the whole sport and how can we lift up the different levels of the sport and doing the things that we're doing.
So in addition to lifting up and then working with some of the youth groups, are there other responsibilities of running the museum that you have as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, we kind of determine what we want to do, but we're trying to branch out. Like the other couple weeks ago, we did a Mike Duro life celebration of a legendary coach from Cornell College who passed away early in his life. We're doing November 2nd. We're doing the Bobby Douglas Open House, who's one of the most legendary coaches, and he was a two-time Olympian, two-time Olympian coach. Won a national title at Arizona State.
Okay.
Was a coach at Iowa State. So we're bringing him in. Then this Friday we're doing Boys and Girls Club of Waterloo. We're coming in with 30 kids.
Oh wow!
And so we're doing a weigh-ins Friday as well for a big girls tournament. And now the girls
absolutely.
we're growing, man.
Yep.
And so we're all over the board, but doing great. I really feel like good things are happening.
Yeah. I was at the gym. I think I told you 20 times I work out at about 5 a.m. And there's a young lady, her nickname I think is Day Day Watson.
Yes.
I was there, and she was on the treadmill before I got there, already running last year, and I'm like, wow, that's absolutely incredible.
You're going to keep hearing her name come up. She's outstanding.
Yeah.
She's going to be a good one.
And you just mentioned a little bit earlier, you were watching a match, I think you said from 48 or some year, and then you were watching Kyvan, what was that, 2015, 16, or sometime in that
14
area?
14 or 15, yeah.
And so things have changed, and so there's some interactive pieces in the museum. You want to tell us about that?
Well, you can just come in and see, and we're trying to change it up sometimes as well, with our different displays and stuff. But we're featuring a lot of things, and Waterloo's in there. I mean, you can walk in, you're going to know who Chuck Yaglow is if you don't know him already. We got a feature on him, and a guy named Bruce Baumgardner, who's one of the famous, one of the biggest, John Smith, 6 Olympic and world titles. Probably one of the most famous guys in the sport. So, all the way through the museum, when it goes way back to the 1920s, it started.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
And the Dan Gable Learning Center, that's located in the museum as well. Can you tell us about what that is?
Well, it's basically our wrestling room is what it's. The Dan Gable Learning Center. When you come in, a beautiful wrestling room that we use, and we also use that for events. We'll roll up the mats and use it for events as well. So that we're going to use that quite often and for any number of different things.
Okay. And I had to read this when it says, I need to know about working with Dan Gable, the late Bobby Siddons, the Bowlesby brothers, both Bob and John, and Bill Dotson, Bob Buzzard, and Kyvan. Tell us a little bit about working with all of them.
It's a small world, man, because I grew up watching Dan go through. He was 5 years older. every place. I mean, this guy might be the most recognizable person in the state, no matter what. Every place we go, I get reminded.
Right.
We can't go anywhere without somebody wanting a picture. Hey, Dan Gable, you know. And so that's been great, and he does great things for everything in our state. But you know, Bob Bowlesby was the AD at UNI when I went through, so he helped me along in my career. John Bowlesby is a board member. Bill Dotson changed my life. Bill Dotson came into East Waterloo my senior year. He's my wrestling coach. He changed my life. I was good friends with Willie Gatson, so obviously I watched Kyvan grow up. You know, so. And he's a great representative of the sport. And Waterloo, man. That guy loves Waterloo.
Yes, does.
Yeah.
How is the museum funded?
Well, with donations and so forth. But, yeah, we're working on that each year. We have a development person that does a great job for us. But, yeah, we're fully funded. We need, donations and so forth is what we're looking for. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I remember the golf tournament is incredible because,
It is.
you see all these wrestlers and people that are so adamant and heartfelt about it that they're coming back, and it's a tremendous time. I've never won a golf tournament. I'm going to change that next year, but just
that'll be in Waverly again this year.
You guys do a tremendous event. And really quickly about the Gable beer.
Hey, pretty good. Yeah, man. And places we go, they buy a six-pack, and Dan signs each. I mean, if he's there, he'll do it. But that's been a big hit for us, the Gable beer, and we're coming out with, not we, what's the name?
Single Speed.
Single Speed has done a great job, and Dave Morgan over there. I think we're going to see Red, White, and Blue come out for the Olympic Games coming up next year for Red, White, and Blue. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Thank you, Coach, and congratulations on a tremendous career. We are so blessed to have you continue your work in wrestling and the positive influence you continue to make on our youth. And I urge all, wrestling fans or not, to take time to visit the outstanding Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum. It is a treasure in this community and has something for everyone, so please don't miss it. Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it. So appreciate it.
We briefly mentioned in this interview some of the numerous outstanding wrestling athletes emanating from Waterloo, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk a bit about the Hall of Fame Museum's founder. Olympic wrestling champion and legendary coach Dan Gable is still regarded by many as the greatest athlete to ever come out of the state of Iowa. He earned his Olympic gold medal at the 1972 in Munich while not giving up a single point. And although Dan Gable retired from active coaching in 1997, leading the University of Iowa to 15 national championships, he remains a devoted wrestling supporter. He is also the author of Dan Gable, A Wrestling Life. And one more point about Dan Gable, The Vault, an archive of maintained and curated content by the editors of Sports Illustrated, has rated the best athletes from each state. And in Iowa, the magazine ranks Dan Gable as the #1 in this list. And he outranked Bob Feller, who led the American League in strikeouts 7 times, tossed 3 no-hitters, won 266 games for the Cleveland Indians. Niall Kinnick, Heisman Trophy winner for a season in which he had a hand in 107 of Hawkeye's 130 points. Elmer Layden, one of Notre Dame's 4 horsemen, or Jay Berwanger, the all-purpose player at Chicago who won the inaugural Heisman in 1935 and was the top pick in the NFL draft. Dan Gable, an inspiration and great role model. See for yourself at the Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum. Moving on. I have always advocated for the preeminent importance of our youth. The role of youth is to renew, refresh, and maintain the status of our society, including leadership innovations and skills. Youth are expected to advance the current technology, education, politics, and peace of the country. But they must be prepared, feel safe, and acquire a sense of self-confidence. In Waterloo, we have a number of organizations that help youth adjust to this often complex society. One organization envisions this possibility that all youth are able to achieve their full potential. What organization has this vision? Stay with us. The answer after this.
When I ride my bike, I am always very careful and stay safe at all times. I always wear a properly fitted helmet. I check the safety lights in the front and back of my bike, and no matter where I ride, I keep an eye out for cars, even when riding on the sidewalk. This message is brought to you by Drive Safe Cedar Valley.
Youth Art Team brings together students from a variety of backgrounds and life situations to complete exceptional works of art through a process that values student voices in decision making. What is their mission and how do they encourage you to develop their creative potential and empower both personal and social change through art? To answer this question and others is Heidi Fuchtman, founding member and coordinator of the Cedar Valley's Youth Art Team. So welcome, Heidi, to Heart for the City.
Thank you.
Well, that is great to have you. So before we begin, just for people that may not know you, can you talk a little bit about you and what's your background and how did you get started in youth art?
Yeah, I was an art major at school and
That makes
was
sense.
a graphic designer for a long time and had children of my own and saw how creative they are. And then a group of people had gotten some kids together and noticed how creative they were. So we just started the Youth Art Team, doing one project at a time back in 2010.
And so that was kind of the impetus behind starting the Youth Art Team. And what year again did it start?
2010.
2010.
We're just turning 9 years old this year.
And you have students from one or two schools, or from where do you recruit them from?
They come to us from, I think it's something like 15 different local schools.
Oh, wow.
So we're really trying to bring together artists from all over the community to try to bring people together who maybe otherwise wouldn't have relationships, and really try to build that through our team.
And so what is the lead team, and what are the ages, and what do they do?
Yeah, so the lead team is the team that actually started in 2010. A lot of those artists are still with us. So some artists who started in 2010 with us were in kindergarten, and now they are sophomores in high school.
Wow.
And so Youth Art Team is really designed to go very deep in relationships and skill building with those artists on the lead team. But then they sort of lead the other teams. There are actually multiple teams with the Youth Art Team. Their ages on the lead team right now are 8 through 16, and they sort of go through the experiences together. Since we've built so much trust over the years, we can kind of do these new projects with them first and learn how to do it best with all the others. So they're kind of the leaders.
And so it's not just about art. With the youth. There's also other things. You mentioned mentoring, skill building, or something like that?
Yeah, I think that I have been surprised even myself at how much the arts provides opportunities for artists to build confidence, to learn how to relate to people who are different than them and understand different perspectives. What was the specific thing you were thinking about?
More so of, because when I come over to visit, I see parents engaged, because this is special for the parents to be able to see what's taking place. But also, with the project, we'll talk a little bit later about the bridge mural. And, how does that make a young person feel? Because just think, you actually had a hand in seeing something that's being incorporated into the city. So it gives a sense of belonging and empowerment to me that's kind of special. But I'm not being interviewed. You're being interviewed. But I love this title, the Imagination Coalition. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the Imagination Coalition are our oldest artists on our team. There are 5 of them, and they exist to help bring about the next vision for Youth Art Team. So this is something that, a group of us adults started, but the intent has always been that this is a student-led group, And so we have a youth board member who is on the Imagination Coalition. He sits with our board. They all are going to rotate through being a youth board member, and then they meet on their own and develop kind of their own initiatives. They want to be evaluating our projects and be more involved in the planning of them.
Right.
So, yeah, Imagination Coalition.
Well, I need one, or I have too much already. But the Youth Art Team's largest public mural, can you tell us about that one, that project?
Yes, we just completed that in June of 2019. We brought the lead team to St. Louis, and they learned about how places have stories to tell. So when you think of St. Louis, you think of the Arch, and don't always realize that there are stories that happen right there.
Right.
The courthouse that's very nearby was the place where the Dred Scott trial was held.
Wow.
The people were marching at the time that the Arch was built because they were not hiring African American people to work. So they were marching for jobs. So it was a way for them to learn that places have stories to tell and realize when they come home that our place has a story to tell too.
Wow, incredible, incredible. And that was about Waterloo civil rights history along the Center for Arts wall, correct?
Yeah, the Waterloo Center for the Arts used to have the Junior Art Gallery before it had the Phelps Youth Pavilion, and that was started in 1968, which was a year of heightened racial tension here in Waterloo. So they asked us to tell the story of that time through art on this mural right along the Cedar River.
50 years later, huh?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, which was a huge topic to take on. But because we had this group of artists who have been together for so long, the Imagination Coalition, those older artists, actually did preliminary interviews with leaders from the community and people who had grown up in Waterloo at that time to help them understand what was happening, and they summarized that for all ages of artists. In order to figure out, like, how did people feel at that time and what kinds of things did they have to summon up in themselves. So the mural itself, the artist had to think about what colors can I use to show those feelings and how can we put different lines and shapes together to make people actually feel the way people felt.
And it's beautiful just with the overall integration of youth art into everything we see and we do. And I know you're just starting, right? But my question really quickly is, how is this funded?
That's a great question. We work with so many different groups that I think it's confusing for people because we are our own organization, and most of our funding comes from individuals, actually. Individual donations, and then we also apply for grants and get funding from local foundations and also the Iowa Arts Council.
Right, so there's still time to give, right?
Yes.
Always giving, because there's always a need to be able to support our young people, and expressions through art is a tremendous, tremendous, beautiful thing as well. But tell us really quickly about the Love is Power, that theme.
Yeah, so that came about, it was our first mural that we ever did. And anytime we do artwork, it's we're asking the students to brainstorm and come up with a message. And one of the artists had written Love is Power across her paper. And so that turned into the Love is Power mural. And it really has set the foundation for everything that we do with Youth Art Team, the relationships, the interviews.
And what does the future look like for the Youth Art Team when everyone floods with all these donations?
Yes, I think it looks great. We have lots of people who want to do projects, lots of artists who want to do them. This whole next year, we're like moving toward our 10th birthday in 2020, in October of 2020. And so we're trying to really up the support to make sure that Youth Art Team has another really strong 10 years.
All right. You know, and this reminds me of Pablo Picasso when he once said, all children are artists. The problem is how to remain an artist once he or she grows up, and perhaps something to think about. And thank you, Heidi, for taking the time to expend working for the betterment of our young people, and especially for introducing our youth to the civil rights movement then and now, and encouraging them to express their feelings through art. The work of the Youth Art Team actually, and more importantly, is truly, truly inspirational. And everyone should take time to view the 3,000 square foot mural called Our Freedom Story along the Cedar River outside the Waterloo Center for Arts. And here is a preview of that mural. Looking for something to do? For entertainment, shopping, eating, and more, go to experiencewaterloo.com for complete listings of so many exciting activities, places, and venues. Also, check the Main Street website, and that's www.mainstreet.org. We have much more going on in downtown Waterloo all year long, including exciting annual events which you won't want to miss. And consider the many opportunities to be a part of Main Street by volunteering. Well, that's our show, and we welcome your suggestions and feedback. Remember to tell others that these episodes are available for viewing from the City of Waterloo website, and that's cityofwaterlooiowa.com, and search for Heart for the City. And be sure to like us on Facebook. Please join us next time, and thanks for watching Heart for the City. Until then, I think you will agree it's a great day to be in Waterloo.